Transitioning between ideas and information, this video is all about conjunctions, and the written material is thanks to Amy Sanders and the University Writing Center at Dallas Baptist University in Texas. Thank you very much. So, all of these words and other ones are examples of conjunctions: wherever, then, because, nor, so, before, even though, etc. Let's look at some of these in more detail so you know exactly how to use them in a more sophisticated manner. Now, a conjunction is the name for the common words that are used to join or conjoin parts of sentences. Also, conjunctions may be used to begin certain sentences. Now, there are different types of conjunctions, and some of them might overlap a little bit. There are simple coordinating conjunctions, conjunctive adverbs, subordinate conjunctions, and correlative conjunctions. Sounds really complicated, but we'll go through each one step by step, and you're probably using all of these already. Now, simple coordinating conjunctions. These, when you were learning to speak and to write, would have been the ones that you first used. So they're used to join words, phrases, and independent clauses. Okay, to mark addition, you'd use and. I went to the park and I had an ice cream and I played on the swing. To indicate contrast, one thing but another thing, or one thing yet another thing. To communicate a result or effect, we say one thing happened, so this was the result, for example. To indicate a reason or a cause, we use for or because, or nor to indicate choices or negative choices. So here's some examples. He only wears striped ties and polka dotted bow ties. It wasn't a costume party, yet many came dressed as literary villains. Now, conjunctive adverbs. These are less frequently used. However, they do serve an important function. We use them to join two independent clauses or related sentences in a more sophisticated manner than a simple coordinating conjunction. We might say also, furthermore, besides, moreover, however, still, nevertheless, instead, otherwise, similarly, likewise, etc. And you can read the rest on the screen here. So the words, most of the words themselves are a little bit longer, but also the relationship between the ideas that's implied with the words is often a little bit more sophisticated than those simple coordinating conjunctions. So, two common ways to use these conjunctive adverbs. First of all, when you are developing or extending an explanation of particular ideas, but you're beginning a new sentence. So, you've got some information. Furthermore, stiletto heels are not a fad. So, furthermore communicates an additional statement and so is followed by a comma. Another way to use this is at the beginning of the sentence, which comes after some other information, but not right at the beginning. It is, however, not this illness, but the lack of support that is the main problem. The word however is inserted near the beginning of the statement, but it interrupts that main idea, so it should be surrounded by commas. The second way to use conjunctive adverbs is when you are joining two independent clauses, two main ideas that could each stand on its own and be their own sentences, but they're closely related, so you want to join them rather than just separate them with a full stop. For example, he only wears brown wingtips. Consequently, he does not wear white socks. So the two ideas are connected. We have our first independent clause here and our second independent clause, but we want to show that they're connected. So there needs to be a semicolon here, then our conjunctive adverb, comma, then our second independent clause. It's the same thing with our following examples. The shoes were not suede, however, they were leather. First independent clause. Our second independent clause, we want to show that they're connected by using this conjunctive adverb, but there has to be a semicolon here and it needs to be followed by a comma. And with our third example, it was not a Halloween party, Nevertheless, many came dressed in costumes. Here's our first independent clause, our main idea. Second independent clause, which could be its own sentence. We want to join them in the one sentence with the conjunctive adverb of nevertheless. Finish that first independent clause with a semicolon, nevertheless, and then a comma. Now, subordinate conjunctions. These conjunctions are used to express relationships between a dependent and independent clause. And if you've already watched the video about independent and dependent clauses, you would have seen how many of these are used. A subordinate means something that is inferior in rank, or it relies on something else. It implies one thing is connected to another thing. Okay, so if you have a look at all of these examples here on the right hand side, you would use a lot of these quite frequently. They might indicate time, when something happened, a reason for something, a result or effect, a particular condition under which something can occur, a contrast, indicates a location for something, indicates a choice or an option for things. So let's look at some examples. Now, these subordinate conjunctions don't have to be in the middle of the clauses, and they're actually often used to begin a sentence. Now, if the dependent clause, the extra piece of information, begins or interrupts the sentence, then it's separated from the independent clause by a comma. That sounds really complicated, so let's have a look at some examples. Here, we have, once she found the perfect brooch, she purchased 3 outfits to match it. Now here we have our main independent clause. She purchased 3 outfits to match it. Now once indicates or demonstrates a time context, that one thing comes after another or one thing results in the next thing happening. Okay, so we have our dependent clause here, then a comma, then our main idea. Let's look at this second example. He wore the top hat wherever he went. So wherever demonstrates a place, a location context. And although wherever begins the dependent clause, the extra information here, no comma is used in this example because this dependent clause does not begin the sentence like it did in this previous example here. Okay, this dependent clause doesn't interrupt the main idea, it comes afterwards, so we don't need a comma here. If we did put a comma there, it would sound a little bit funny. He wore the top hat wherever he went. We don't need a pause there. Now, correlative conjunctions. Correlative conjunctions are 2 separate conjunctions or words that come in pairs, essentially. We say both one thing and another thing. I like to wear either pants or capris. Neither the shirt nor the jacket fit. Whether or not you wear nice clothes, you have to wear clothes, etc. Okay, so they usually come in pairs, and there are expectations about the pairs. With some of them, you don't mix them up. For example, with the neither nor example, if you're using neither, that definitely should be nor. Some students sometimes write neither something or the other thing. We definitely use nor.